In courtrooms like this one here in the Allen County Courthouse, hundreds of child abuse and neglect cases are heard each year. Obviously, it's a very challenging and difficult time for the young victims in these situations. And so the Court-Appointed Special Advocates Program, or CASA, comes into play to help them through this difficult time. With me right now are Rex McFerrin, who's the director of the CASA program here in Allen County, and Julia McIntosh, who's one of the volunteer coordinators. We're going to talk to them a little about the program, which is going to be recognizing its 25th anniversary here in Allen County. Rex, let's begin with you. Tell us a little bit about the history of the program and how it got started in Allen County.
Oh, sure. Way back in like 1978, actually, a judge in Seattle, Washington named Dave Sokamp was both a criminal court judge and a family court judge. And he said that every time he went home after a day on the bench in criminal court, he always felt comfortable with whatever verdicts were because there was always enough information for him to render a decision. On the other hand, he said he was always frustrated when he sat on the bench on family court days with child abuse cases because he always felt like he never had enough information to make a decision that impacted on an entire family life for a long time. So he came up with this concept of using trained community volunteers to help supplement the system to give input to the court just representing the child's perspective, because the parents had attorneys, the Department of Child Services out there had their attorneys, the kids were the only ones who were not represented. Back in 1984, Judge Hockensmith, Judge Briggs, and then Chief Juvenile Probation Officer Ken Watson were at a conference, heard about this. They applied for a federal grant and actually received it. And so they received the money in 1985, and it was a pilot program here in Allen County. It was an 18-month pilot program to see if our community thought it was effective and if it worked here locally.
And my understanding is you've helped somewhere in the neighborhood of 2,800 or more young people through the program. Give a little idea of exactly what you're looking for from the volunteers and what they're to provide the court.
Number one, volunteers have to be 21 years of age. And what we're looking for is individuals who are able to donate 3 to 7 hours a week in their role as a child advocate. Volunteers are expected to make home visits to the parents. We try to get to know the parents as people. We ask the volunteers to get information about the parents' childhood, the parents' life, their growing up years, because most people don't wake up on Monday morning and say, I'm going to abuse my child, I'm going to molest them, I'm going to neglect them. It's life experiences that bring them to that point in time, and that will then allow us to make recommendations to the court on what we believe are the appropriate, what they call services or appropriate help for the parents to attempt to rectify the problems that got the family into the system. And so the court expects us to appear at every court hearing on behalf of the children, to provide the court with a written or verbal report regarding the information the volunteer has obtained, our assessment of that information, and then our recommendations that we believe represent the children's best interest throughout the entire course of the case.
And Julia, as the volunteer coordinator of the CASA program, I'm sure a situation like other volunteer programs, you're always looking for more and in need of more volunteers.
Most definitely. A majority of our volunteers are women, but we do have a good amount of male volunteers at the present time. Right now we're at about 150 active volunteers, which I think is the highest we've had in the 25 years.
Now these volunteers who apply to CASA, you give them a certain amount of training. Talk a little bit about the training they undergo.
They go through 30 hours of training. We offer training every spring and every fall. It's 6 weeks long. We always have it on Tuesday, Thursday evenings from 7 to 9:30. We do videotape each evening. That way, if they have to miss a few, they're able to watch it at home on DVD. They also go through background checks. We do what we call an informal interview with each potential volunteer before training starts, just as a way to get some ideas on what their background has been, why they're coming into this, and it gives them a chance to ask us some questions about it as well.
And you're not necessarily looking for people, Rex talked about they're serving as advocates for the children, not necessarily with a legal background.
Correct.
They are, in essence, if I gather this correctly, sort of serving as the spokesperson for the child.
Exactly. Our volunteers come from all different walks of life. Some have been abused themselves when they were children. We have volunteers that work full-time, others who are retired. some who were teachers, some who currently are teachers. So they come from every aspect of life.
And I'm sure this is an emotional thing for them to be involved in, probably a little bit stressful, but on the other hand, I would think they receive some benefits and rewards from volunteering.
They do. It kind of goes both ways depending on the case, and every case is so different. Some can be frustrating, some end up, the way you wanted them to. The family gets the services they need, they make the changes, and it's, a happy ending. But the volunteers know that, they're there to provide the court with information, and hopefully the case is going to go in a positive direction.
And Rex, let's talk a little bit about success in terms of the child or the victims of these crimes. This has to relieve a lot of burden from them to have someone, an adult figure there, representing them.
In lots of different ways. Sometimes with adolescent children, many times the volunteers are the person that they can get angry at about their plight, about their circumstances. Many times it's hard for our children to be angry at their parents because that's difficult to admit your parents are the reason you're in foster care or in a group home. Other times our volunteers wind up being a mentor, and the children continue, the young people, continue to stay in contact with them after they're out of the system. We have one young lady who is currently in college and continues to stay in touch with the program.
And this is different from a foster care situation. You're not looking for people to necessarily house the children.
Oh, no, we're strictly just there to represent their best interest in court. Many times when we have children very young children, the volunteers will actually spend majority of their time dealing with professionals and the parents rather than the children. The older the children are and depending on the nature and circumstances of the case, the volunteers then may spend more time with the young people, but the parents are the key. And so we need people to understand that it won't be just working with the children. It involves the entire family as well as the community of professionals who try to provide services for the family.
Now, the CASA program is both funded through the government, but it's also a nonprofit organization. Kind of explain how that works for folks.
Once we were incorporated into the Allen Superior Court's budget as part of the county, as a county program, we receive county tax dollars for the staff and for operating expenses. If you go back in the beginning, we had one staff person and minuscule operating. As we increase now, we are at 4 professional staff, we are at 1.5 clerical, and our operating expenses have increased when you go from 20 volunteers to 150. We are currently funded through county council, and we are for half our operating budget. The other half of our operating budget is through our Indiana Supreme Court. But yet we are a unique blend. We are a court program and we are a volunteer program. We can't use tax dollars for activities that you need to provide to maintain a volunteer base. So we established a not-for-profit board to raise funds so that we can do things that are necessary for the volunteers to maintain this volunteer base over the last 25 years.
And Julia, if there are folks out there watching who are interested either in becoming a volunteer, who might want to make a donation to the CASA program, or just want to learn more, how can they get more information?
They can call the office and we can send an information packet out to them, and our phone number is 449-7190, or they can also go online and check out our website, and that is www.allencountycasa.org.
Well, 25 years in existence. Obviously, the program is doing something right, I would say, and we congratulate you on that achievement, and we hope for at least another 25 years from the CASA program. Rex McFerrin and Julie McIntosh, our guests today, talking about the CASA program in Allen County.